Your sister's been sleeping in the nursery again. You really should keep it cleaner for her." The front door wasn't even fully closed when my mother-in-law said it. It was 7:42 the morning. I was still holding a bottle of warm formula, my 4-year-old daughter was crying from the top of the stairs, and my sister-in-law, the one who was supposed to be here for 2 weeks tops, was standing in my kitchen wearing my robe, eating cereal out of my wedding china. My name is Sophia Reynolds. I'm 35. I teach 5th grade at an elementary school outside of Richmond, Virginia, and for 6 years, I've been married to a man named Marcus who I genuinely believed was a good husband. We have one daughter, Emma, who is the brightest, softest-hearted kid I've ever met. We bought our little Cape Cod on Magnolia Lane 3 summers ago, painted the shutters ourselves, planted a dogwood in the front yard, and I remember thinking, this is it. This is the life I built. Nobody can take this from me. I was wrong about that part. My mother-in-law's name is Diane. She's 61, a retired hospital administrator, and she has the softest voice of any woman I've ever met. She speaks to strangers in grocery stores like they're old friends. She brings homemade banana bread to the neighbors every Christmas. When I first met her at a Thanksgiving dinner 10 years ago, she hugged me so warmly, I remember thinking, I hit the jackpot. I thought I'd married into the kind of family you see in holiday commercials. But softness, I've learned, is not the same thing as kindness. Softness can be a weapon if the woman holding it knows exactly how to aim. It started 8 months ago, on a Tuesday in March. Diane called Marcus while he was at work and asked, in that gentle, worried way of hers, if his younger sister Tara could come stay with us for just a little while. Tara was 31 and had just been through what Diane called a rough patch. A breakup, she said. A little burnout, nothing serious. She just needed somewhere quiet to rest, and our guest room was just sitting empty, wasn't it? Marcus said yes before he even called me. I remember standing in the teacher's lounge on my lunch break, listening to him tell me it was already decided, and feeling that first small cold thing slide into my chest. A warning. The kind you always ignore. Tara arrived 3 days later with 6 suitcases and a duffel bag full of prescription bottles she stuffed into the bathroom cabinet without asking. She hugged Emma too tightly. She told me my kitchen was laid out wrong. She asked if we had real coffee and then laughed like she was joking when I could tell she wasn't. Within a week, she had moved the furniture in the guest room, taken over the laundry room, and started leaving her wet hair on my pillowcase because she said the guest bathroom mirror didn't get the light right. I told Marcus, gently, that it felt like a lot. He rubbed my back and said, "Soph, she's been through so much. Just give her a couple of weeks. Mom's really worried about her. Mom's really worried." That phrase. It became the soundtrack of the next 8 months. If Tara drank the last of Emma's juice boxes, Mom's really worried. If Tara slept until 2 in the afternoon and then got upset that lunch wasn't ready, Mom's really worried. If Tara called me a little uptight in front of my own daughter at the breakfast table, Mom's really worried. "Soph, please don't make this about you." 2 weeks became a month. A month became 3. By the time summer rolled around, Tara had rearranged my spice rack, replaced my throw pillows with her own, and convinced Marcus to let her borrow the second car indefinitely because hers was in the shop. The shop, as far as I could tell, was a fiction. No one ever called about it. No one ever delivered it back. But the thing that really started to scare me wasn't the stuff. It was the way Tara watched Emma. Emma is 4. She's the kind of kid who narrates her own playtime, who asks strangers their names at the park, who still calls butterflies flutterbees because she likes how it sounds. And Tara, from the very first week, had this way of staring at her. Not affectionately, not even curiously. Just fixed. Like she was studying a specimen. Once, I came around the corner in the hallway, and Tara was standing in the doorway of Emma's bedroom watching her sleep, and when I asked what she was doing, she smiled at me with all her teeth and said, "She's just so peaceful." Some of us never got that, did we? I didn't sleep much that night. I asked Diane, as politely as I could, over brunch one Sunday in June, when Tara might be moving out. Diane set down her mimosa and placed her hand over mine in that warm, maternal way she has, and said, "Sophia, honey, my daughter is fragile. She needs family around her right now. I'd think a teacher would understand compassion. A teacher would understand compassion." That's what she said to me. In my own house. About the sister-in-law who had just that morning told my daughter that her mommy yells too much, a thing I have never, in 4 years of motherhood, done. I should have known then. I think, deep down, I did know then, but I was tired. I was working full-time, running a household, raising a kid, and hosting, effectively, 2 extra adults. Tara lived there, and Diane started showing up 3 or 4 times a week to check on her baby girl. I was surviving, and survival narrows your vision. You stop looking at the big picture. You just try to get through Tuesday. Then, in August, things changed. I came home from a back-to-school planning meeting at the elementary school and found Emma's bedroom door closed. I could hear Tara's voice through it, low and sing-song. I stopped in the hallway and listened. "You know your mommy loves me more than you, right, Emma Bear? That's why she let me stay. That's why I get to sleep here now. You have to be a big girl and share your mommy with Aunt Tara." Emma was crying. Quietly. The way she cries when she doesn't want to get in trouble. I opened that door so fast the hinges squeaked. Tara was sitting on Emma's bed with her hand on my daughter's knee, and Emma was curled against the pillow with tears on her cheeks. And the second Tara saw me, her face rearranged itself. I watched it happen in real time, the way an actress might change masks backstage into something soft and worried and innocent. "Oh, Soph," she said. Emma was just having a little nightmare. I was comforting her. I said, as calmly as I could, "Get out of my daughter's room." Now. She did. She walked past me smiling. That night, I told Marcus everything. What I'd heard, what I'd seen. The way she watched Emma. The way she'd set up a little speaker in her room that played white noise to help Emma sleep, a speaker I hadn't agreed to. The prescription bottles in my bathroom. The looks, the stories, everything. Marcus listened. I really thought, for a minute, that he was listening. Then he said, "Soph, I think you might be reading into things. Tara's always been a little weird, you know that. She doesn't mean anything by it. And honestly, babe, you've been kind of on edge lately. Mom even said, 'Your mother,'" I said slowly, "talks to you about me?" He looked away. That was the second cold thing that slid into my chest. And this one didn't slide out. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I did what I have always done when the ground shifts under me. I got very, very quiet, and I started paying attention. The next morning, I called my best friend, Elena. Elena is a family law paralegal in Norfolk, and she has been my person since our freshman year at UVA. I told her everything, every detail, every conversation. When I got to the part about what Tara had said to Emma in the bedroom, Elena was silent for a long moment. Then she said, "Sophia, I need you to listen to me very carefully. You need to start documenting. Today." Documenting what? All of it. Dates, times, quotes. Save every text from Diane. Every text from Marcus about his sister. Don't confront anyone. Don't tip them off. I need you to be a ghost in your own house for about 3 weeks, and then I need you to call me back. I said okay. I didn't know yet what she was preparing me for. But I trusted her. That weekend, I drove to a home improvement store 2 towns over, and I bought 4 small indoor security cameras, the kind that sync to your phone. I installed them myself, one evening when Tara was out and Marcus was at a work dinner. One in the living room, positioned as a picture frame. One in the kitchen, tucked into a plant. One in the upstairs hallway, high enough that no adult would glance up. And this is the one that saved me, in Emma's bedroom, disguised inside the base of her unicorn nightlight. I will never apologize for that camera. Not to anyone. Not ever. I also, that same week, ordered a smart lock system for the front door. Installation took 40 minutes. Marcus didn't notice for 3 days. When he finally did, I smiled and said it was a back-to-school sale, and wasn't it nice how you didn't have to dig for keys anymore? He shrugged and moved on. Tara noticed faster. She asked me, standing in the foyer with her purse on her shoulder, how it worked. I showed her the keypad. I gave her a code. I did not tell her that the system logged every single entry and exit, by user, by time, down to the second. I did not tell her that I could disable her code remotely from my phone in less than 10 seconds. For 3 weeks, I lived inside my own home like a spy in a foreign country. I was warm. I was helpful. I made the coffee. I packed Emma's lunch. I laughed at Diane's stories about the women at her church. I listened to Marcus complain about his boss. And every night, after everyone went to bed, I sat in my closet with my laptop and I watched. What I saw broke something in me and built something new in its place. I saw Tara go into Emma's room 7 nights in a row after Emma was asleep, just to stand there and watch her. I saw her open Emma's dresser drawers and go through her clothes. I saw her, and this is the one that made me actually put my hand over my mouth in the dark lift. Emma's stuffed rabbit off her bed, press it against her own face, and whisper something into it before putting it back. I saw Diane come over on a Tuesday afternoon when I was at school and let herself in with a key I did not know she had. I watched her walk through my house like a realtor doing an appraisal. She opened my refrigerator. She opened my medicine cabinet. She went into my bedroom and opened my nightstand drawer, and when she found my journal, the one I'd been using since Emma was born, she sat down on the edge of my bed and read it for 41 minutes. I saw her take photographs of the pages with her phone. I saw her put it back exactly where she found it. And I saw Tara, 2 nights later, sitting at my kitchen table with Diane while Marcus was upstairs, and I heard because the kitchen camera has audio, and I will never regret spending the extra $40 my mother-in-law say, in that soft, warm voice of hers. She's unraveling, honey. Marcus sees it. The journal just confirms everything. 6 more weeks, and we'll have what we need. Just keep doing what you're doing with the little one. She needs to start trusting you more than her mother. Tara laughed. A small laugh. Almost girlish. She said, God, Mom, you're terrifying. I love it. I closed the laptop. I sat in my closet in the dark for a long time. I didn't cry. I know that sounds impossible, but I didn't. What I felt was something much colder and much clearer than sadness. It was the feeling of a door closing very gently inside my chest. The feeling of knowing, with full certainty, that the woman these people thought they were dealing with was done. She wasn't going to show up anymore. The woman who showed up next was going to be someone else entirely. The next morning, I called Elena. I told her every single thing. She asked me to forward her the video files. An hour later, she called back, and her voice was very level, and she said, Sophia, this is beyond what I can help you with as a friend. I'm going to connect you with a family attorney I trust. Her name is Catherine Voss. You'll like her. And I want you to understand something. What your mother-in-law and sister-in-law are building is a custody case. They're trying to establish a pattern of maternal instability. The journal is a big deal. The isolation of Emma is a big deal. The prescription bottles in your bathroom, if any of those are in your name or could be planted to look like yours, that's a very big deal. I asked her, what do I do? She said, you do nothing visible. You keep recording. You start seeing a licensed therapist this week not because you need to, but because you need the documentation that says you don't. You get Emma's pediatrician to do a full wellness check and write a letter. You open a bank account your husband doesn't know about. And then, when Catherine tells you it's time, you invite them over for dinner. I did all of it. Every single thing. I saw a therapist named Dr. Price twice a week for the next month. I sat in her office and I did not cry, and she told me, very gently, that not crying was a perfectly valid response to discovering your family was hunting you. I took Emma to her pediatrician, Dr. Walsh, and Dr. Walsh examined her, asked her careful, kind questions, and wrote a 3-page letter describing a secure, well-adjusted, happy 4-year-old with no signs of neglect or instability in the home. I opened a checking account at a credit union across town. I took pictures of every prescription bottle in my bathroom, none of them, thank God, in my name. I saved every text message. I backed up every camera file to two separate cloud drives and an external hard drive I hid inside a hollowed-out copy of Anna Karenina on my bookshelf. Diane never would have opened that one. She hates long novels. And I kept being warm. I kept making the coffee. I kept laughing at her stories. On the third Thursday in October, Catherine called me and said, "We're ready, you pick the night." I picked Sunday. Family dinner. I invited everyone. Diane, Tara, Marcus's older brother Patrick and his wife Lauren, who I actually liked. I even invited Marcus's Uncle Ray, who had always been quietly kind to me. I told Marcus I wanted to make it special, a real fall dinner, the whole works, roast chicken and butternut squash, soup, and apple crumble. He lit up. He said, "Babe, that's amazing. Mom's gonna love that." I bet she will, I thought. Sunday arrived. I cooked all day. I set the dining room table with the good china, not the wedding china Tara had been eating cereal out of, the other set, my grandmother's. I put fresh flowers on the table. I wore a cream sweater and my grandmother's pearl earrings. I looked, I think, exactly like the woman Diane thought she'd been slowly, patiently dismantling. They arrived at 6. Diane hugged me at the door and whispered, "You look a little tired, sweetheart. Are you taking care of yourself?" I smiled and said, "I've never felt better, actually." We ate. We laughed. Patrick told a long story about his son's soccer game. Lauren complimented the soup 3 times. Tara was quiet, which she sometimes was in groups. Diane held court at the end of the table, like she always did, warm and luminous and in charge. Over dessert, I stood up. I said, "Before everyone leaves, I want to share something with the family. I've been working on a little project, and I think it's something we should all see together." Marcus looked confused, but not concerned. Diane's smile stayed in place. Tara's fork paused halfway to her mouth. I picked up the remote and turned on the television in the dining room, the one we'd installed 2 years ago, the one I'd spent Saturday morning connecting to my laptop. "This is the last few weeks at our house," I said. "From my perspective." And then I pressed play. I want to be honest about what happened in the next 6 minutes, because I have replayed them in my head every night since, and I want to be precise. The first clip was Tara, at night, in Emma's bedroom. Standing over her, whispering. Patrick set down his coffee. The second clip was Diane walking into my house on a Tuesday afternoon with a key. Opening my refrigerator, opening my bedroom drawer, finding my journal, sitting on my bed. Reading it. Photographing it. Lauren made a sound I have never heard another human being make. The third clip was the kitchen conversation. The one with audio. My mother-in-law's soft, warm voice filling the room while she sipped tea at my table. 6 more weeks and we'll have what we need. Keep doing what you're doing with the little one. She needs to start trusting you more than her mother. Tara's girlish laugh. God, Mom, you're terrifying. I love it. I paused it there. The dining room was the kind of silent I have never experienced before or since. The kind of silent that has weight. Lauren was crying without making noise. Patrick was staring at his mother like he had never seen her before in his life. Uncle Ray had both hands flat on the table, and his mouth was slightly open. Marcus, my husband, Emma's father, the man I had shared a bed with for 6 years, was the color of paper. Diane recovered first. Of course she did. She's brilliant. She smiled, sadly, gently, and she said, "Sophia, sweetheart, this is so out of context. We were just worried about you. You've been so overwhelmed, and..." I said, "Stop." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. I slid a folder across the table to Patrick, because I knew he'd read it fairly. Inside were copies of everything. The pediatrician's letter, Dr. Price's statement. The photographs of the prescription bottles, none in my name, 3 in Tara's, 2 of which are serious antipsychotic medications that a licensed nurse practitioner friend of Elena's had confirmed are prescribed for conditions involving a documented history of aggression and delusional thinking. Tara's medical history, which Diane had been hiding from Marcus for 15 years, because Tara had, at 22, been involuntarily committed for 3 months after threatening a coworker's child. Public records. Real onus. Patrick read the first page, then the second. Then he stood up so fast his chair hit the wall behind him. He said, "Mom, is this true?" Diane's mouth moved, but nothing came out. I said, "I am filing a formal trespass notice against my mother-in-law tomorrow morning. I am filing a restraining order against my sister-in-law on behalf of my daughter. I have already changed the locks. Your key, Diane, stopped working at 5:14 this afternoon. The code you used, Tara, was deactivated at 5:15. Marcus said, very quietly, "Soph." I turned to him. I had been preparing for this for weeks. I thought, when the moment came, I would cry. I didn't. I just looked at him, and I said, "You let your mother read my journal. You let your sister whisper things to our daughter in the dark. You told your mother I was on edge. You chose them. You chose them over and over, every time I asked for help, and you told yourself it was because you were a good son. It wasn't. It was because it was easier. I am giving you a choice tonight, Marcus, and I want you to understand that it is the only choice you will ever get from me again. Your mother and your sister will never set foot in this house again. Not for holidays, not for birthdays, not ever. If you cannot agree to that, in front of this family, right now, you can pack a bag and go with them tonight, and my attorney will be in touch on Monday." The room held its breath. Marcus looked at his mother. Diane's eyes were glassy, pleading, devastated in a way I had never seen before. And for a moment, I will not lie, I thought he was going to go to her. Then he looked at me. And then he looked past me, toward the hallway, where Emma had apparently snuck downstairs in her pajamas and was peeking around the corner, clutching her stuffed rabbit, the one Tara had whispered into against her chest. My husband, for the first time in our marriage, made the right choice without me having to explain it to him. He stood up. He walked over to his mother. He took her car keys off the table where she'd set them when she arrived, and he handed them to her, and he said, "Mom, you need to leave my house. Right now." Diane stood up slowly. Her composure was fraying at the edges now, the soft, warm mask slipping off in pieces. She said, "You would do this to me, after everything I've done for you?" And I said, from across the table, "That's exactly what she did, Diane. Everything you did. We all watched it. On television. Together." Tara started to cry. Not a real cry. The performance kind. Diane put her arm around her and walked her to the door with the dignity of a queen being escorted to her own execution. At the threshold, she turned back, and she looked at me, and for just 1 second, the mask came off completely. I saw what was underneath. It was not a mother, it was not a grandmother. It was something much older and much hungrier, and it was furious. She said, very softly, "You'll regret this, Sophia." I said, "I have an email drafted to the Richmond Times-Dispatch about your daughter's medical history and her unsupervised time with my child. I have it saved in 3 places. If anything happens to me, or to Emma, or to this marriage, it goes out within 24 hours. Your church friends will read it over coffee. Your book club will read it. Your sister in Charleston will read it. The hospital where you worked for 31 years, the one where you're still on the retiree board, they will read it. So, no, Diane. I won't regret this. You will." She left. The door closed behind her, and my smart lock beeped as it engaged, and Emma came running across the dining room in her little footy pajamas and climbed into my lap. And I held her against my chest, and finally, I let myself cry. That was 6 months ago. Marcus is still in this house, but we're in counseling, and I will tell you honestly that I don't know yet how that story ends. Some days I look at him and see my husband. Some days I look at him and see a man who let his mother read my journal. Both of those things are true. I haven't decided which one wins yet. Emma hasn't asked about her aunt or her grandmother once. Not once. Which, I think, tells you everything. Tara is back in her mother's house in Fredericksburg. A process server delivered the restraining order to her on a Wednesday morning. I know because my attorney sent me a photograph of the signed paperwork. I keep it in a folder on my desktop titled Key. Diane has sent exactly 1 letter since October. It was 4 pages long. I didn't read it. I put it in the folder with Tara's paperwork, unopened, and I closed the laptop. Our dogwood bloomed last week. The front of the house looks beautiful. Emma's been helping me plant tulip bulbs in the beds along the walkway for next spring, and yesterday she asked me, apropos of nothing, Mommy, why did we change the locks? I knelt down in the dirt next to her. I thought about it for a second, and I said, because this is our house, baby. And in our house, we decide who comes in. She nodded like that made perfect sense to her, and went back to her bulbs. A lock isn't a wall, I've been thinking lately. A lock is a decision. It's a small, quiet promise you make to yourself about who you are and what you're worth and what you will not allow across your threshold. For 6 years, I let other people hold the key to my life. I told myself that was love. That was family. That was being a good wife, a good daughter-in-law, a good woman. It wasn't. Love doesn't photograph your journal. Family doesn't whisper to your daughter in the dark. A good woman doesn't hand her keys to people who are counting the days until they can use them against her. I hold the key now. Just me. And I'm never giving it back.